In April 2017, a video appeared online showing a young woman with her arms bandaged up to the elbows. She stared intensely at the camera, her youthful appearance contradicting the shocking crime she was accused of. Cassandra wrinkled her nose, poured bleach on the bathroom floor, and prepared the house for a big party. Cleaning the place wasn't easy. It had to look presentable. Her boyfriend, Johnny, helped seal the door frames with a white adhesive to block the smell, making sure no one could detect the odor of two bodies upstairs. In the small town of Lawrenceville, Georgia, strange events unfolded over a week. 3 couples in separate homes were attacked, with no signs of forced entry. On April 2, 2017, the first couple was found in their bed with their throats slit. The house was ransacked. 6 days later, on April 8th, the second couple was attacked as they entered their home, sprayed with bear repellent and beaten with metal bats. The next day, a third couple was found bleeding on the bathroom floor, barely alive. Investigators found connections between the couples. The third couple used the second couple's car, and intimate videos of the second pair were on the first couple's phone. Police hoped for answers from Johnny Ryder, 19, and Cassandra Bjorge, 17, once they regained consciousness in the hospital. Cassandra and Johnny were deeply infatuated. To Johnny, Cassandra was perfect, his soulmate. A trained martial artist, Cassandra had given up her practice due to emotional struggles, but her intense personality remained. Despite dating for only a few weeks, Johnny felt like they had been together forever. Police arrived at a suburban home that seemed eerily sealed shut. Inside, the house was in disarray, with cigarette butts, dirty dishes, and moldy food scattered around. Upstairs, they found 2 bodies, a man beaten and stabbed in his sleep, and an elderly woman, similarly killed. The couple, Wendy and Randall Bjorge, were Cassandra's grandparents. The day after the bodies were discovered, Johnny sent a chilling voice message to his mom, asking for forgiveness. Shortly after, Johnny and Cassandra were found unconscious in another apartment, having attempted to harm themselves. When Cassandra woke up in the hospital, she initially blamed her depression, but eventually admitted to the crime. She told police how she and Johnny waited for her grandparents to sleep before attacking. Johnny started by beating her grandfather. Cassandra, hearing the noise, struck her grandmother with a crowbar. The couple tied up the grandparents and demanded the safe code. Johnny stabbed her grandfather while Cassandra opened the safe, which contained $1,000. The couple used the money to buy food and party supplies, continuing to live in the house for a week with the bodies upstairs. The couple spent the money recklessly, even using Cassandra's grandmother's bank card when the cash ran out. They invited friends over for a party, masking the smell of decomposition with bleach and sealing the upstairs doors. None of the friends knew about the bodies in the house. Cassandra and Johnny's crime spree didn't stop there. On April 8th, they attacked Johnny's sister, Melissa, and her boyfriend with bear repellent and a baseball bat. Despite their injuries, Melissa and her boyfriend fought back, forcing Johnny and Cassandra to flee in Melissa's car. Eventually, police tracked the couple to a friend's apartment. Surrounded, they tried to harm themselves again, but were arrested. In custody, Cassandra remained emotionless, recounting the crimes in chilling detail. She described her resentment toward her grandparents, who had raised her after removing her from an abusive home. Though they had loved her, Cassandra claimed they had become overbearing. At their trial, Johnny and Cassandra pleaded guilty. They were sentenced to 2 life terms plus 21 years each, with eligibility for parole after 60 years. Many debated whether either would have committed these crimes without the other's influence, though most believed Cassandra was the mastermind. While Johnny expressed remorse, Cassandra showed none. The story ended with her relatives devastated, mourning the betrayal and loss of 2 people who had cared for her deeply. Melissa was kicked in the stomach multiple times, but managed to grab Cassandra's hair and rip out a clump. During this, the attackers kept spraying bear repellent, which mostly hit Melissa and her boyfriend. The struggle continued with the attackers having the upper hand. It's uncertain what would have happened if Melissa's mom hadn't arrived and opened the front door. The attackers managed to escape through the back, but not before leaving Melissa with severe injuries. requiring 7 stitches and staples for a large gash on her head. Both she and her boyfriend were bruised, and he also had a broken tooth. Shocking was that Melissa didn't even recognize her brother Johnny and his girlfriend Cassandra, whom she'd only met once before. To make matters worse, the couple stole Melissa's car, leaving behind Randall Bjorge's vehicle, which they had initially used and parked in the backyard. Johnny and Cassandra had originally planned to hide in Melissa's home, waiting for family members to return one by one so they could kill them individually. However, they hadn't expected Melissa to return with her boyfriend, nor for Cassandra to drop Randall's car keys during the attack, forcing them to flee in Melissa's car. Later, the lingering bear repellent fumes caused severe irritation for both Johnny and Cassandra. They stopped at a store to buy milk, hoping it would relieve their burning skin. Meanwhile, police visited Melissa's house to take statements and became curious about the car the attackers had used. Checking the plates, officers discovered it belonged to Randall Bjorge. This led them to revisit his house, where they found the crime scene. In custody, Cassandra revealed their plan. First, they killed her grandparents. Next, they intended to kill Johnny's family, who disapproved of their relationship. Cassandra claimed she had issues with her grandparents because they kicked her out for staying out late. She also lived briefly in Johnny's car after leaving home. Although she had thought about killing her mother and stepfather later, Johnny discouraged it, citing the potential risk of encountering weapons at her mother's house. Cassandra's grandparents, Wendy and Randall, had fought to protect her from abuse in her mother's home, even obtaining emergency custody of her. Despite this, Cassandra chose to turn against the people who had saved her. Wendy had been aware of abuse allegations against Cassandra's stepfather and had taken steps to shield her, yet Cassandra felt her grandparents had outlived their purpose. Police noted the living room in Wendy and Randall's house was filled with pictures of Cassandra, showing their love and devotion. Yet Cassandra told police her grandparents no longer showed interest in her and only lectured her. She resented their disapproval of Johnny, and Johnny's family also disliked Cassandra. Together, the couple decided that both families had to die for them to start a new life together. Cassandra and Johnny dreamed of moving to Pensacola, Florida, but their actions suggested little thought about the long-term consequences. After killing Wendy and Randall, they lived in the house for a week, attempting to mask the smell of decomposition. They even invited people over for a party, lying about where her grandparents were. Only 2 guests, who supplied them with weed, came, and neither suspected the truth. Eventually, police traced them to the home of Johnny's old friend, Jason. Surrounded by law enforcement, the couple attempted to harm themselves but were arrested. Cassandra later claimed she and Johnny felt more like Bonnie and Clyde than Romeo and Juliet. At their trial, they both pleaded guilty. Johnny apologized, showing remorse, but Cassandra remained cold and silent. They were sentenced to 2 life terms plus 21 years, eligible for parole only after 60 years. The courtroom and public debated whether either could have committed the crimes alone, with many believing Cassandra was the driving force. Cassandra's betrayal deeply hurt her surviving relatives, who couldn't fathom how someone so loved and protected could commit such heinous acts against her own family. The tragic tale concluded with the unimaginable loss of 2 devoted grandparents.
I'm sorry for what I did, but that's hardly enough.
I think that's the one baffling part of this case, that to this day we can't understand why he committed this mass murder.
Imagine a quiet suburban neighborhood shattered by a gruesome crime. A teenage boy accused of murdering his entire family. What drove him to commit such a chilling act? Was it a dark secret, a hidden rage, or something even more sinister? Stay tuned as we unravel the shocking truth behind this horrifying family tragedy. The Thanksgiving Massacre of 1998, the case of Seth Privacky. On Thanksgiving Day in 1998, a seemingly ordinary family in Muskegon, Michigan, gathered to celebrate. Linda Privacky was showering, while her husband, Stephen, was out picking up his father, John. In the living room, their son, Jed, 19, waited for his girlfriend, April, to arrive. Upstairs, however, Seth Privacky, the family's youngest son at 18, was loading his father's .22 caliber Ruger. When Seth came downstairs, he shot Jed in the head without warning. He then moved to the garage, where he waited for his father and grandfather to return. As they arrived, Seth ambushed them, firing 3 shots. One into his father and 2 into his grandfather. Finally, when his mother emerged from the shower, he shot her as well. Moments later, Jed's girlfriend April arrived at the house. Seth let her in, but when she saw the bodies, she gasped in horror. Seth shot her too, making her his 5th victim. A chilling discovery. The massacre might have gone unnoticed for longer, had April's parents not become concerned when she didn't return home that evening. They drove to the Privacky residence and discovered the scene of horror. The bodies of the family members, blood everywhere, and a staged attempt to make the crime look like a botched robbery. Police were immediately called. One victim, Seth's grandfather, was lying in the driveway, while the rest were inside. Only one person was unaccounted for: Seth. Investigators quickly identified him as the prime suspect. The manhunt. Seth fled as police arrived. His best friend, Stephen Wallace, who had helped him stage the robbery, was arrested and confessed to Seth's crimes, revealing details of how Seth had methodically killed his family and even called him afterward, saying, "It's done." When the police was searching the house, they saw a boy was hiding in the woods behind the home. It was Stephen Wallace. He made no attempt to flee. He told the police that Seth had just killed his parents. Police launched a manhunt for Seth. Next morning, news of what had taken place at Privacky House spread like wildfire. Seth's father was a teacher at Wath's Puffer Intermediate School. Everybody in town was feeling sad on this tremendous loss. Gianna Simonelli was also a student of Puffer School. That day she was also very disturbed due to this news. It was an awful rainy day. She was driving along Weber Road. She saw a hitchhiker thumbing for a ride in the rain. She stopped the car and stranger sat in. It was Seth, and she knew exactly what he was accused of. She was terrified, but she kept her cool. She acted as if she knew nothing. She dropped the Seth where he asked her to stop. When he left, Janet immediately called the police. Soon the police arrived at the address where the Seth had been dropped of. They discovered him hiding in a barn, shivering from cold and rain. Seth gave himself up to the police without any resistance. After 13 hours on the run, Seth was caught hiding in a barn, thanks to a college student who recognized him as she gave him a ride. Seth surrendered without resistance, but his actions left investigators and the community shocked. The confession and motive. Seth admitted to the murders, but his explanation was unsettlingly vague. He claimed his family was ganging up on him, and his father had recently asked him to move out of the house. Detectives uncovered a history of minor legal trouble, including shoplifting and selling alcohol to minors, which had earned Seth probation. He was also diagnosed with depression and prescribed the antidepressant Wellbutrin. Seth's behavior in custody was chilling. He described his actions calmly, devoid of emotion, as though he were recounting a mundane event. Despite his confession, his motive remained unclear, leaving friends, neighbors, and detectives struggling to understand why he committed such an unthinkable crime. The aftermath. Both Seth and Stephen were charged. Stephen was accused of being an accessory after the fact, but was acquitted in 1999. Seth, however, was sentenced to life in prison without parole after pleading no contest to 5 counts of first-degree murder. In the years following his imprisonment, Seth maintained that he was not a monster, writing letters to the press to refute claims about his character. In one such letter, he claimed to have been under the influence of LSD at the time of the murders, blaming the drug for his actions. However, there was no evidence to confirm this, and his story only deepened the mystery. A tragic end. Seth's time in prison ended tragically. In 2010, at the age of 30, he and 2 fellow inmates attempted an escape by stealing a truck and crashing it through the prison's fences. Guards pursued them, and Seth was shot and killed when he refused to stop running.
Ironically, he died in the same fashion that all 5 of his victims did.
You think of irony, karma, what you sow, so shall you reap.
His death was ironic, as it mirrored the violence he had inflicted on his own family. Unanswered questions. The motive behind Seth Privacky's actions remains a mystery. His strained relationship with his father, feelings of isolation, and potential substance use may have contributed, but none fully explain his decision to kill his entire family and Jed's girlfriend on Thanksgiving Day. His death at 30 ensured that the full truth of his actions would never be revealed. Conclusion. Seth Privacky's case is a haunting reminder of how unresolved emotions and untreated issues can spiral into unimaginable tragedy. While the community may never understand what drove him to commit these horrific acts, it's a story that continues to resonate as a warning about the complexities of mental health, family dynamics, and violence.
Paradise found and shattered. Maria Louisa Asadio, a respected doctor, arrives at the idyllic Lambton Mission Hotel in Costa Rica for a solo vacation in July 2020. Sunshine, turquoise waters, pure relaxation, or so it seemed. But behind the picture-perfect facade lurked a chilling truth, a grisly discovery. The next day, hotel staff stumbles upon a scene no guest ever wants to witness. Maria Louisa is found dead in her room. The once tranquil space is now marred by signs of a brutal struggle. The cause of death? Blunt force trauma and strangulation, a violent end to a dream vacation. The investigation begins with a luxury hotel turned into a crime scene. The investigation explodes into action. The Lambton Mission, eerily quiet due to the pandemic, becomes the center of a chilling mystery. The keycard system revealed no unauthorized entry, but a crucial detail emerges. The room has a sliding glass door. Could this be the entry point for a killer? Enter the suspects. The investigation leads to 3 intriguing suspects. Theodore Herrera, a hotel guest with fresh scratches, possibly inflicted by the victim in a desperate fight for her life. Luis Carlos Miranda, another guest, seen having a casual conversation with Maria Louisa. Bite marks on the body matched his dental records. Harry Bowden, the hotel owner himself. Incriminating text messages on his phone revealed an invitation to a disturbing threesome with Maria Louisa and Luis Carlos. The trial and the verdict. The trial revealed a tangled web. The text messages were deemed inconclusive, and the bite marks weren't a perfect match. The only concrete evidence pointed to Theodore Herrera. Blood traces on his clothes and under Maria Luisa's fingernails sealed his fate. He was sentenced to 50 years in prison. A cloud of doubt. Shockingly, Harry Bowden and Luis Carlos were acquitted due to lack of physical evidence. This didn't sit well with Maria Luisa's family. They suspected a cover-up pointing to the conveniently malfunctioning security cameras on the night of the murder and the investigators' delayed search of the owner's office. The mystery lingers. On the case of Maria Louisa Asadio remains shrouded in doubt. While one man is behind bars, questions linger. Was there more to the story? Did the hotel owner and his friend play a darker role?